so nice. And I really feel humbled and honored to introduce you now to our first speaker today, an international pioneer, a highly committed mentor, and for sure a role model for women and girls worldwide. Please welcome warmly with me Dr. Anastasia Gbem, past president from the Zonta Club of Lagos, one in District 18 in Nigeria. Is she here already?
Yeah, I think yes. Yes, she's there.
Oh, that's okay. That's nice.
Hello.
Okay, hello. Yeah, after reading your resume, dear Anastasia, I was not surprised that you chaired as well the district's Amelia Earhart Committee. The sky is not the limit. This seems to fit perfectly. Anastasia was the first female Nigerian aviation and space lawyer. And with her, we will meet over 30 years of experience in senior management roles, which cut across the formulation of laws and regulatory oversight of the aviation industry, airport management, air navigation services, and accident investigation. She has served as a top-level advisor to the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency, the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, and the Accident Investigation Bureau. And she also has served as a county delegate to International Civil Aviation Organization conferences and was instrumental in the ratification of some inaugural international air treaties for Nigeria. A highly resourceful and versatile aviation legal expert, Dr. Gbem is called to the bar as a solicitor and advocate of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. She holds a law degree from the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, and a master law degree in air and space law from McGill University, Montreal in Canada. And she enrolled as a PhD researcher in air and space law at Leiden University in the Netherlands, and has been conferred with an honorary doctorate degree of the Doctor of Science in Law and Justice Administration by the European American University of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Anastasia has been recognized as an icon of global excellence for outstanding contribution to nation building by Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria in 2021. And as a passionate and consummate contributor to social development, Dr. Gbem is a mentor and has served as the vice chairperson of the Aviation Law Committee of the Nigerian Bar Association section on business law. She is a member of the Board of Trustees of the African Women Lawyers Association and a member of the International Aviation Women's Association. And we know from her that she loves traveling, interacting with people, and learning. So welcome, Anastasia. You have the floor.
Anastasia, would you like me to enable you to share your screen so that you can share your information with us? I'll just get my...
Yeah, that'd be nice. If I can, I would like to try from here.
Excellent, excellent. I'll just, yes, there we go. Okay, well, all over to you, Anastasia. It should work now. Okay, is your screen sharing now, Anastasia? Hello?
Oh, I think she's frozen.
I think she's just frozen a little bit.
Yes.
Don't worry. We'll, I'll just checking.
Let me try it again.
Okay. I'll open it on my screen as well, just in case have a cut. Okay. Is it working now?
No.
No, okay, not to worry. I've got it here on this screen. I can share it on my screen if you like, Anastasia. And
okay, please go ahead so that we don't waste too much time.
That's fine. That's fine. I'll just move my slides around, and we'll soon be there. Okay. bear with me 1 second and we will be going now. Okay. Okay, can you see that screen now?
Yeah.
Yes,
Excellent.
perfect.
Okay, you just tell me when to swap the slides over, Anastasia, and we'll be fine.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Carol, and thank you, Karen. I hope I got it right.
Yeah.
First of all, I also like to thank the whole think tank for letting me share information with a group on climate change issues concerning Nigeria. I'd like to commend the fact that Zonta has taken a very bold initiative to speak out on issues concerning climate change, especially as it affects the women. I'm confident that with the achievements we had with the Zonta Says No to Violence Against Women, we can ride on the back of that. And hopefully this new campaign will also be very successful, being a very important issue that is affecting the lives of many women. We can go on to the next slide, if you like. First, let me say that climate change, we talk a lot about climate change, but for many years, it was not given much attention across the world until the effects started driving a lot of issues in the society. That led the UN to take a very bold step to get countries together to understand the impact of climate change on the lives of many people in the world. And with the escalating impact, which it has had, particularly one aspect of it, flooding, which has affected many countries, but in particular Nigeria very badly. The issue of climate change, we say, is now a reality. And I would like from that background to share the impact which climate change has had, especially on the lives of vulnerable women in Nigeria. Next slide. First, just a few issues, key features about Nigeria for us to understand by way of background. Nigeria is said to be one of the largest countries in Africa. It's sometimes referred to as the giant of Africa. It occupies a large landmass and it has a lot of vegetation, which is good for agriculture. It has a lot of solid minerals, but it's also blessed with a lot of oil, crude oil and gas. And is an agricultural oil-based society, economy. And these two major economic activity has effect on the climate change as the exploration of oil and the flaring of gas, as well as the cutting down of trees to do farming, deforestation, are all aspects that can lead to heating up, lead to global warming that has effect on climate. So Nigeria is by its nature already prone to incidents that can highlight or escalate climate change issue. It's therefore not surprising that Nigeria as a country has had suffered some very bad effect for climate change, as we see in this presentation. Next slide. So this is just an example of one of the impact of climate change in Nigeria. And just for 1 year, and this is in 2022. By the way, 28% of the Nigerian population live in the coastal areas and is endemic to flooding every year. Between the period of July to September, that is when we have the highest rainy season. Nigeria has two rivers, rivers Benue and Niger, that divide the country into 3 major zones. And these rivers themselves get swollen during the rainy season and then lead to a lot of flooding. So I'm just giving one example. Flooding has been occurring year in, year out, but this is just one example of 1 year of last year's flooding and the impact it has had on many Nigerians. As you can see in this picture, this is the area of Lokoja. where we have one of the rivers, River Niger, and the flooding between July to September damaged buildings worth $2.2 billion. That's a huge amount of economic impact. Next slide. As you can see, the flooding for 2022 affected about 4.4 million people with economic damage of about 6.7 billion. It displaced people from their residence. As you can see, women moving with their mattresses. The roads were impassable. You can see this young woman trying to leave her home on a canoe. So the streets were no longer passable. The motorists were no longer passable. In fact, they blocked the road for almost 1 year, crippling down economic activity and that means a lot for those who depend on trading, on day-to-day trading for their livelihood. Next slide. But the worst of it was that year's flood resulted or killed 662 people. That is the magnitude of the loss of life, and 3,174 were injured. Nigerians died in the 2022 flood. You can see the picture of a young woman who lost some relative in the flood, virtually stranded. Next slide. This is the statistic, the official statistics released by the federal government, by the agency in charge of disaster management, known as the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. If you can see, the print are small, but you can see the number of people affected, 4.4. You can see also the persons displaced, 2.4 people were displaced. See the number of injured people, and you can see the death casualty, as well as the properties that were affected just in 1 year's flood in Nigeria. Next slide. The case of women, particularly as I'm saying, we need statistics. And out of 4.4 million people that were affected, according to NEMA, which is the National Emergency Agency in Nigeria, the vulnerability rate of female is 45% to male. So out of 4.4 million, we're looking about almost 2 million women that were impacted in just 1 year flood. And out of that, about the 600 that probably we're looking about 250 women that may have lost their lives, and about 1,400 that were injured in just 1 year incident of floods, which is escalated by climate change, changes in the atmospheric issues. Next slide. And last year's flood affected over 200 local governments. Nigeria has about 776 local governments in total, covering the entire country. Last year's floods that took 600 plus lives, with 4.4 million people affected, occurred in 233 local governments. The prediction for this year, 2023, shows that the flooding is going to affect more areas, as about 314 local governments of the country, that's almost half of the country, will be covered, will be affected by flooding. So the picture looks very gloomy and not a very happy one at all. Next slide. How is the government responding to this? Of course, some victim reliefs were given to victims, but as you can see, these are palliatives that did not go very far. These are officials of the National Emergency Management Agency, the national body responsible for dealing with disaster management in the country. You can see the palliatives that are being shared here. Of course, this definitely does not go very far. We're not talking about resettling those who were displaced from their homes. We're not even talking about compensation to those families or those who lost their loved ones. So obviously, the compensation here is not adequate at all. Next slide. So in terms of institutional arrangements, what the country is doing on a national level to respond to climate change, the good news is Nigeria is one of the few countries that have adopted a national policy on climate change. It has also promulgated a national legislation on climate change. I think this legislation is one of the first amongst African countries, and globally, not many countries also have put in place. So in terms of the framework, the policy and legal framework is there, and that is supposed to guide Nigeria and help Nigeria in putting up plans that will assist the country tackle climate change issue. And also institutional-wise, it has the Federal Ministry of Environment that oversees environmental issues, and it has a department that is dedicated to climate change. Out of this policy, Nigeria has been able to develop a national climate change action plan. It also have a National Council on Climate Change that is headed by no other person than the president himself. And this council has members spread across the entire society, including private people, women, NGOs are all members of this National Council on Climate Change. Nigeria, as at 2021, is actively participating in the COP meetings. So at COP26, Nigeria committed to meeting the zero target for the reduction of emission by the year 2060. So it's working towards that. So policy-wise, institutional-wise, I think the country is in the right direction in dealing with the issue of climate change. Next slide. So the good news again is Nigeria is one of the first countries in Africa that has a national action plan that is dedicated on gender climate change, as you can see on the screen. And the action plan, which is specifically on gender climate change issue, recognizes the role of women, the importance of women in the society. It says that women are very powerful change agents that contribute meaningfully to the sustainable development of the country, and that social cultural barriers have led to a lot of inequality to women. So this National Action Plan on Gender and Climate Change is meant to relate inclusion for women to participate in policy making, in action that can lead to alleviating climate change effects on women, and possibly to have optimal benefit from climate change initiative and policies, and if funds are made available. So this is a step in the right direction, which is quite commendable. And since this is one area Zonta is focused on, I think we can key in from what Nigeria is doing to see how we can partner with relevant stakeholders in Nigeria. Next slide. So for us in Zonta, in Nigeria, Zonta Club of Lagos is 50 years already. We're 50 years, half a century down the line. We've been very, very committed and active in assisting women in local communities where we are located. We've helped hundreds of women with economic empowerment, as you can see. If you see this umbrella, this lady who is selling fish here, you should sit in the sun without anything to share. In Nigeria, it's common to have ad hoc stores, shops, mobile shops, where you can sit and sell your wares. So we empowered many women like this. You can see we're able to provide hundreds of these shelter umbrellas for them to be able to sit and do the market more conducively. Additionally, we extended healthcare, free healthcare to women in the local communities. Since this issue of Zonta says no on climate change is only being echoed now, not many people are conversant with it. So I have been discussing this with members of my club, and they are eagerly looking forward to what they can do. They have already proposed actions which they can take, including like advocating, just like we'll be doing for Zonta says no to violence against women, that they can push up, increase advocacy with regards to reliefs that women who are affected can get. And where, if possible, they can also see where they can rehabilitate them, and they will also be able to extend Medicare services in terms of counseling for trauma. So the club is eagerly looking forward to what they can do together, like we've been doing before, in this area of climate change to help women who are affected get better and get back to their feet and resume their normal support to their various families. The last slide. So in conclusion, I just want to echo that climate change is a really serious problem. We can see from one example in Nigeria where we're talking about over 600 lives that were lost just within a period of 3 years. That is quite alarming. We can see the number of women that were affected within 3 months, over 2 million women. That is a very, very high number. So it's really an issue that like Zonta is pushing. Zonta should continue in this direction to partner with relevant stakeholders at the international level, with UN, with World Bank, to continue to raise awareness and to drum support for women who are affected by these climate change issues worldwide. And the club should also work at the local level with relevant stakeholders to assist women that are impacted by climate change. Last slide is just thank you for your time. As you can see, this is where many women were displaced. They cannot access their homes. They are packed in one canoe. If you see behind this picture, there are those sheds. Those are shops where ordinary was like a market where people were trading, but this had been displaced by flooding for just 1 year. So I'd like to thank you for the time to share the plight of women who are affected by flooding in Nigeria. Thank you very much, Carol.
Thank you so much, Anastasia, for this fabulous presentation.